It's just a tragic loss, and way too young. And I'm just so sorry for his family and for him.
Montesini's family says they are in shock, trying to process his death. In a statement saying, quote, "He was full of life, passionate, thoughtful, and will be missed deeply by his family and partner Alicia." Monsini leads the
What the hell is this about?
Well, I grew up in Brockton and knew Peter and played football with Peter. He was just a good guy.
As the investigation continues, the district attorney is vowing to get answers.
Our investigation will take a close look at every possible point of information to help determine what happened and how it happened.
Now the governor is asking commuters for patience. The parking garage sits right above.
What were you up to there, Nancy?
It wasn't me.
What was all that noise?
Not at my house.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
Looks like he's in a Van Gogh painting.
No, it looks like a. No, it doesn't.
Good evening.
Hey, how are
Fascinating
you?
discussion. What did I miss? Well, let me see. I'm getting feedback here. So I am just. Is anyone else getting feedback from my voice? No. Okay.
No, not now. I
Okay.
was earlier.
Okay. So I just flew in from Concord, so sorry to be 2 minutes late, but here we are. I just would like to check the members of the committee that are here. I see Nancy Catalmo, Dave Wilson, Paul Spurn, Austin Antrim, Jimmy Dolan, Ellen Goldberg. Yeah, looks like we've got our committee in attendance. So I'm Lynn Spencer. I'm chairman of the Nahant's Community Preservation Committee, calling this meeting to order on Monday, March 28th, 7:03. So with that, let's turn to the first thing that we usually do when we have a meeting, and that is look at the minutes.
We have them too. Let me share my.
Okay.
As soon as I find the Zoom thing again, here it is. I hope.
right.
No, that's not it. There it is. Okay, so if I now share my screen, share that screen. I think you have it. No?
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, good.
So these are the minutes from Monday, March 7th.
7th, right. We have the 7th and the 14th. We don't have last Monday's, the 21st, as yet.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'm sorry, I've been out of the office all day and haven't seen these yet. Have other committee members had a chance to look at them? Anyone? No. Right, so let's actually scroll these on the screen and let everyone have a chance to review them together.
Okay. I have, so let me know when you want me to scroll further.
Okay.
You could probably put them on 2 pages if I were smart, but I don't think I dare do that.
Yeah, I'd like to move it on my screen and I can't, so.
I've got page layout.
So Are people ready to have the scroll down? Yeah, please do.
Can you read that or is it too small?
I think it's brilliant myself, but
Good. That's all I need to know.
any comments from people? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a
Nancy-
motion.
Okay, Dave motioned and Nancy will second.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote on that. Starting with Nancy Catalmo,
Aye, aye,
Paul Spurn,
Aye.
Dave Wilson,
Aye.
Dave Wilson,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Ellen,
Aye.
you're okay.
and Jimmy Dolan.
Aye.
Okay,
Oh, good. Okay.
right, so the minutes are accepted. Thank you very much.
All
So
right,
let's
next
go
one,
on to the next lot.
the 14th.
How's the reading going? Anyone with any questions or comments on these minutes? Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Dave. A second, please.
Nancy, you're muted.
Nancy seconds.
Right, so then we'll go for a roll call vote for those voting in favor of accepting the minutes from March 14th. Nancy Catalmo,
Aye,
Paul Spurn,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Jimmy.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so the minutes are accepted. So, great. With that, let's go into the heart of our meeting, which is to review the recommendations that we put forth last week. We're coming down into the final stretches on all this, so I'd like to ask Paul to put these up on the screen.
They should be, no?
Okay. Just for context, I want to remind everyone that, well, Paul, could you actually go to the bottom line and then we'll go back to the top?
Bottom.
Yeah, the bottom. So we can see how much money we have,
No money.
how much we're recommending. Yeah, good, right there. So last week at the end of the evening, long evening, we had made a tentative recommendation of $512,864. We have available, based on our 3% surcharge matched by $70,000 in state match, a conservative match estimate, but we generally do that. We will expect to see $391,000 of CPA revenues this year. We have $266,494 in the general reserve and $35,649 in the housing reserve. So that combined is $693,143. Okay. So as we think about these recommendations, we think about, what we have available, both in this year's CPA, the general reserve and the housing reserve, and then over against the recommendations themselves, generally trying to keep at least $100,000 in general reserve. Okay, all makes sense. So let's go back to the top of the page,
Yep.
Paul, and just actually walk through these, because tonight the goal is to come forth with the recommendations that we are taking forward to FinCom for discussion with that group. So number one on this chart is the first application we actually received, which was from the Nahant Historical Society. They had a grant request of $41,450, but we are actually recommending that this to be divided into two parts. And based on conversations that Austin had with Julie Tarmy, the recommendation is that part one for this year for $18,464.
Lynn, should we change this grid to reflect the changes that the applicants agreed to? Or should we leave it the way it is? If so, we should probably call that column original grant request rather than grant request, unless you feel otherwise.
Jeepers, I don't have any strong opinions about this.
Okay.
Group, what do you think? Anyone?
Well, we came to our final recommendations last time, so I just don't see why we need to go back and add them, but
Okay. Fine with me.
it involves two grants that we did that with.
Right, but we are not really treating the second grant. We are not funding the second part of this grant.
Right.
That'll have to be, as Lynn, unless I'm wrong, that'll have to be submitted next year.
Next year.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, expecting that we will smile on the application.
Well, I know the Historic Society knows that.
Good, okay. I'm gonna change these to original grant requests and just leave it at that.
In regard to that, since we requested that they break this up, given the amount of applications and limited funding, is there a way for us to approve the second year of this? Because it really is all the same project. I know this was already discussed, but.
Did you hear the deep sigh? Excuse me.
Where did that come from?
I thought I might get that.
That was a deep sigh. I'm hesitant to do that, honestly.
Okay,
We obligate ourselves when we do bonding, and that's
Right.
a clear kind of obligation. I think the spirit of this is, yes, we would consider that in the same way we did the town clerk's records. We understood that was going to be a 4-year process, but we reviewed each application annually.
okay,
So
thank you.
I think that philosophically, I think that's the way to think about it. So. Well, if there's not any other comments on that, let's go to the next one on this chart, which is the Nahant Preservation Trust application for the replication of the 2 pairs of boat room doors facing Short Beach itself. They had actually amended their request, asking for $64,000, which they're matching with $16,000 for an $80,000 total project cost. Our recommendation last week was for $64,000. Any comments?
I did finally have a chance to see those doors, and they are badly rotten. I'm glad this is moving forward.
I appreciate you took the time under in unusual circumstances to do that, but I appreciate you took the time. Any other comments from the committee?
Seems like a bargain. I thought it was restoration in the literal sense, and I didn't know there were 2 pair of doors. So I'm getting a lot more than I thought I was paying for.
Yeah, there's 4 giant leaves, if you will. I mean, they're good sized doors. I think they're probably around 6 feet wide. Austin, do you know the dimensions offhand? No.
No, I don't.
But they're approximately 6 feet wide and 10 feet tall. They're massive doors. And these were the doors that were opened in emergencies to let the lifeboats out for rescues.
Mhm.
On that side of the that section of causeway. The other side also has a pair of boat room doors, much smaller, that open onto the Black Rock Beach side.
So they're doing all 4 doors. Is that what you're saying? The
That's
front and the
right.
back? Well, I
Mhm.
thought originally it was just for the ones facing Short Beach.
No.
No.
So it's the ones facing Short Beach, Dave, but those are 2 pairs of doors, each with a massive leaf.
Yeah. I know
How
they're
are the
hard to
doors?
open.
What's the condition of the doors on the other side?
They're fine. They
They're
don't
fine.
take as much water and weather, and they're not opened. See,
Right.
the ones facing Short Beach are opened.
Okay.
And need to be opened. Well, if there's no further discussion, let's jump on to the next one. Any further discussion on this?
No.
Okay. I'm also checking the chat to see if anything comes in from the public. Next is the village church for exterior. It's actually 2 walkways to the 2 entrances of that building for universal access, which is another term for handicapped access. It means everybody gets to be able to go in those doors. And the church is asking for $40,000, and they are matching that. They're matching that with $50,000 with $10,000 for a total project cost of $50,000. Any comments or questions or further thoughts on that one? Okay. Then moving on, we have the Johnson School and the town of Nahant. with a request related to the Heritage Trail. And they initially asked for $40,000, but then after further discussion and review with the committee, they're coming in with an application for $10,500 for planning work with basically design services by a landscape architect qualified to do this, so that the trails and the enhancements are safe for children and everyone using them, and take advantage basically of the ecological and historical qualities of that trail system.
So Lynn, this is another grant where there's an anticipated second year proposal coming up.
Yep.
And I looked over the numbers in the, excuse me, in the revised project proposal that we got from Kevin, and the numbers didn't add up. So I called him this afternoon, and the bottom line sounds pretty much right. He said, well, he thinks it's a $12,000 planning project, and they had initially come up with 1,000 in matching funds, but they had raised that by 500 when he thought it was going to be a $40,000 grant.
Mhm.
So, would it be acceptable if we make the grant request for $11,000 for a $12,000 project with a $1,000 match?
Versus the 1,500.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. And
Well,
he and I also had a candid conversation about how much easier it will be to raise money for a project once they have a plan in hand.
yeah,
And I think he's very optimistic about raising substantially more than just that $500 that's chopped out of this grant. So I think we'll do well that way.
well, folks, so what Paul is suggesting is that we bump that from $10,500 to $11,000, with $1,000 being matched by the Johnson School PTA.
Right.
Do I hear any objections to this? All right, Paul, you want to change that on the chart?
Yeah, well,
The next one on our list is the purchase of 9 Little Nahant Road. This motion was tabled last week based on several factors. One of them was, in fact, what would be the use of this property, whether under the category of historic preservation or under open space. 2 were the ambiguities, or not the ambiguities, but the sort of the scheduling issues related to the HUD auction. And 3, and quite significantly for this committee, our real constraint on funding ability for this. We talked about what it meant to potentially bond a $1.1 million request, which would simply buy the property, not pay the town back for the $400,000 owed in taxes, but 1.1 would simply be what HUD is looking for to cover its the mortgage situation. So we actually suggested to Tony that this actually be taken back to the Board of Selectmen for further discussion. It's possible that, if this is a priority from their end, this is possible that is something that goes to the town meeting itself, without necessarily depending on CPA funding for the entirety. Have I captured that correctly?
Yep.
So let me just look and see if Tony is on this call.
Yeah, Tony's on. I'm looking
Tony?
right at him.
Okay. Tony, I want to give you the chance to sort of speak up at this point as to whether there's been any further discussion with the Board of Selectmen. I know that they haven't been meeting formally, but I don't know if there's another way of communicating on this.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
I have I've spoken to two of the three. One is on vacation, so I'll be speaking with him later this week when he gets back. But yeah, obviously they haven't met as a group, so no decisions or have been made at this point. We've talked through the project and what it would mean if the funding were to be split, what type of cost that would be on the town, how that alternatively, if it wasn't split, how that would impact, the CPC. I could tell you that we've talked a little bit about the other applications that we've submitted to CPC this year, and talked a little bit about changing or pulling back some of the applications so that the stress on the budget is with including 9 Little Nahant Road is less for the current year. So we're kind of looking at a ton of different avenues to bring back to you all. I think what's tricky here is the timing, as you mentioned. Not knowing when the auction's going to take place and when the town meeting warrant needs to be finalized. And even if this application was included in the town meeting warrant, it's the strain that it would cause to CPC is still kind of unconfirmed, until a number of boxes get checked. So if it's, as we talked about in the past, if the auction occurs after town meeting, and this was approved at town meeting, the town, would have to win the auction, or the auction would have to be unsuccessful. If the auction was unsuccessful and then there was an opportunity to negotiate a final price with HUD to purchase the property, I would have to work within the budget approved by town meeting, and can't go any higher. And if we were able to do that is up in the air. So there's a lot of different, I guess, like unknowns that are factored into this decision. So we haven't quite, it's not a simple, I guess it's not a simple conversation to have with each of them individually. I'm doing that with two of I've done that with 2 of the 3 so far. But it really takes kind of a group discussion to make a final decision. I can tell you that, the board, they're, the 2 that I've spoken with, are fully, haven't wavered, I would say, as to, the importance of bringing this vote to the town of Nahant. The importance of letting the residents make a decision. However, splitting it up has a different financial impact on the town. And it's our job to kind of look at that, take a deeper dive at that, and see if that's something that is financially responsible.
Hi, this is Josh. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
You want me to
Hi.
recognize you, Josh?
If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I'd be very pleased to.
Okay, so Josh Antrim, 267 Nahant Road. So I just wanted to confirm that Tony summarized our discussions very well just now, and you know, we recognize that there's a lot of moving parts to this thing, including the schedule. And, you know, it's a bit of a dilemma because we understand that it does this application to some degree sort of binds the hands of the CPC, you know, as it relates to other projects. So it's a tough one, you know, and we've talked about, Tony and I had talked about, should we try to host a meeting to try to get community input to gauge the level of interest, you know, in advance of town meetings, so that we, you know, if people are strongly in favor of this application, they can make sure they make their voices heard with your committee. But you know, we're kind of we're a little bit out of time to schedule such a meeting. You guys need to move forward with your recommendations here. So, and you know, Tony and I were just talking about it a couple hours ago, and it's, you know, his position, and I agree, is, you know, well, that's sort of the purpose of town meeting is for people to chime in on how they view these things. So that's really my only comment, just agreeing with Tony's summary and you know, recognizing the sort of the dilemma that this committee's in.
All right, well, thank you.
I guess that's it. All right.
Other comments from the committee itself as they've listened to this?
Makes it very complicated in trying to decide how to proceed. First of all, we don't have the full endorsement of the Board of Selectmen, but even if we did, it's also contingent. It's kind of hard to do any planning and set up a budget and fairly treat all the other applications for funding.
Mhm.
Am I missing something here?
No, I was unhappy that the town would consider withdrawing some of the applications from other things to possibly support this and our an additional funding of it, because I think that we really want to be as diverse as possible with our money.
Thank you. Other comments from the committee members?
I just have one other comment. I do what Nancy says, you know, if they decided to pull some of their other things away to lower the cost and everything, we're still gonna have our cost for the next 10 years. And that's gonna make a big impact on giving out funds later on in later years. So, you know, it's about time that we stand as is, you know. Let the townspeople decide on this.
I think it's worth, you know, waiting another week and getting feedback from the full committee after they've had a chance to meet about it. You know, give them a chance to sort of work through the numbers and see what they come back with.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Others?
This is Tony again. Just wanted to follow up on Nancy's comment there. You know, we're just trying to figure out a way. If we were, the effort to pull back some of the other applications would be like a creative effort of trying to find a way to, or portions of those applications, I should say, of funding some of the stuff we're trying to do this year and, you know, relieve the CPC of that strain caused by the 9 Little Nahant Road application, which is somewhat, the dilemma is the timing, right? So you know, you could potentially see a, you could potentially recommend the article for a town meeting vote. Town meeting could not award it. The auction could occur, and the town could not be the winning bid. Or the negotiation between the town and HUD, wouldn't work out based on our budget. All three of those things would then relieve the CPC in the future years. And those other things that we pulled back could be in front of you again next year to bring them back to the front line. Obviously, if 9 Little Nahant were to go forward, what that impact would be on future years, is certainly something that we're looking at and being cautious of, just like you are. So, it's not that we would pull these other applications and, it's not like we're choosing something over the other. We're just trying to explore that, as well as a potential split between CPC and non-CPC borrowing. We're just looking at every option to try to find a workable solution.
I appreciate that. I do want to be very clear, Tony, that you are aware that, and the committee is aware, we have two existing bonds that chew up approximately $125,000. We are looking at another potential bond for Town Hall and the Green Lawn Cemetery Archway, which would chew up, another $50,000. So if we look at adding 9 Little Nahant Road, we just in year one, we're at $275,000. And that's just and that doesn't count the East Point situation. So it's very hard to see that we actually have the financial capacity, even if we had the will. But right now, the will is actually stymied by what exactly the future use would be. And quite honestly, the timing issue that has made it difficult to have a meaningful community process. And I think that's something that we are all aware is really needed. And while CPC is one forum for that, and we have heard from some speakers on that subject, we haven't heard from the larger community, which should have a chance to be involved in a meaningful discussion about this property and other housing or open space or historic preservation issues in the town. So sorry that HUD has been such an unfair player in all of this. That's the way it feels. All right, well, we'll keep the dialogue open as Austin just suggested. We appreciate, Tony, actually the thought and effort that you and the Board of Selectmen are giving to this. It is of consequence, no question about it. Unless there's any further comments, shall we move on, committee?
Sure.
Okay. Right, so the next one, apropos of this discussion, is the Town of Nahant's application for the housing production plan. This actually could be a valuable tool in communicating with the town overall. This could be partly the vehicle for that kind of community discussion that is really warranted as we think about housing needs for seniors, for young families, et cetera. So this is an application requesting $75,000 for that plan. Can I hear discussion or comments on this from the committee?
I think this is Nancy, one of the points that was made last week was, as in the case of open space, this is another important thing that's been put off for many years that needs to be done, I believe. So I think it's important for a lot of reasons to go ahead with this plan. And it does cost a bunch of money.
All right. Other comments?
I second what Nancy said. It's terribly important.
All right, if we don't have any further comments on it, we'll let that stand as recommended last week and move on to the next one, which is the town hall. We should actually make sure the language is clear about this, but this should be town hall acoustical improvements and lighting design. And you have done it on your chart. I was looking at my old chart, but thank you, Paul. That's the way it should be said.
Oh, okay, fine.
This is a $100,000 request, and the committee has recommended $100,000 for this. This application was supported by professional consultants that had been brought in by the town to look at the lighting and acoustical situation. And those consultants were paid for by our administrative account, which was part of the purpose of that. Any comments on this one, committee? All right, then let's move on to the next one. And here we hit the town of Nahant's application for the Green Lawn Cemetery entry arch, and then the town hall cupola and chimney and some roofing work. And that is a request for $350,000. Tony, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
So I would just like to give Tony a chance to give us an update on the discussions with the current contractor for the library in the town hall. Is that all set? Are we moving forward on that project? And do the costs associated with town hall still stand as they had been bid?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, wow. Thanks, Tony.
This is one of those items that I was talking about when we were talking about 9 Little Nahant Road. I'm not saying one way or the other, but it's something, it's in that puzzle that I'm trying to explore all different options of, if we had to maybe cut this down $100,000 and the town could potentially find alternative funding for the cemetery wall that is, the arch. What that type of impact, if this was 250, how that would impact your debt schedule or, otherwise. So this is one of those that I am kind of looking at in that lens.
So do you have other funding sources for this work?
I'm exploring it. That's all I really can say at this time.
Do you have ARP money coming in?
Do I have what?
Do you have Economic Recovery Act money coming in?
I mean, we have that. We have, free cash. We're building a budget right now. What would the debt, if we wanted to borrow for that cost, what would the debt be on that, for the town? Talking with, state legislators about funding sources at the state level, so I'm kind of tapping all sources at the moment, trying to figure it out.
Okay. So, I mean, I have to say it would be wonderful not to have to bond this from our perspective.
Can I ask that question? If this was 250, would you be able to not bond it? I know, of course, it's a whole, that factors into everything else.
Yeah.
But is it more manageable that way?
I'm just running a total on this right now, but I'll be in competition with Ellen, who's much faster about these things than I am. Ellen?
I have I'm sorry.
What? We can-
Sorry, my mute button has to stay muted because of the dogs.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're fairly unpredictable. That's why I continue to do this.
Okay, well, I just did run it. So if I ran this at 250 with what we had recommended, we're at $703,000, which is over what we have. So unless we actually reduce certain other accounts, 250 would be too high for a direct ask.
Okay.
And so where this goes though, is to say, it'd be better to make sure that we are at including all that we really need to, instead of keep coming back year after year, 3 years in a row with bond requests.
Well, yeah, of course. I guess, these numbers are the most confident numbers you could have. They're the
Yep.
product of a public bid. So, unless you went out and bid, it's hard, right? Because unless you have the funding and you put out a bid, you're not going to get confident numbers in return to then come and ask for the borrowing.
No, I appreciate what you're saying. I'm saying a somewhat different thing. You do have actual numbers from this from a contractor, at least for the town hall work, not for
Correct.
the cemetery. If there were other things that were on that planning analysis, that chart that was done 4 years ago in terms of the building assessments that should be included now, we should know about that. If there's-
There definitely is other things included in there. When we put this bid out, we looked at all the needs for the town hall and the library and the cemetery, and tried to, I guess, categorize them by trade in a sense, to try to get to bid the similar trades in this package. Also looking at like the priority of the repairs. So, at the library, the most critical need is roofing, woodwork around the windows, gutters, and masonry. So we kind of said, all right, let's, what type of work similar to that is needed at the town hall. And that's how we bid this out, because if you just bid out, if you add the general construction, if you add plumbing, you add electrical, you add all these other things that kind of factor in there, you're looking at, it's just going to blow the price way up.
No, Tony, I'm saying a different thing. I'm saying this. There was a study that was done 4 years ago that actually looked at these 3 buildings, the town buildings, and categorized work by priority. So if there's other things in that plan that was done 4 years ago that should be, that may not be in this bid, but should be considered for work under this bond, this is the opportunity to do this, because I don't think this committee wants to see another one of these similar applications next year. This will be the 3rd in 3 years.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying in response is, I can't give you a number until all of these. Every time we've come back to the CPC, it's because the bid came in higher than the original budgeted amount or the original CPC grant. So it's hard to approach the committee today with a number that would encompass all of the things that are identified in those studies. That's the struggle.
Well, all right. Okay. All right, we'll let that stand unless there's other comments from the committee and we'll move on.
I have one comment. It seems that 4 years ago, we're looking for funds to do the archway at the cemetery. At that time, I believe it was $45,000 to do it. 4 years later, now it's 100,000. And if you've been up there, the archway is ready to fall down. And if you
Yeah.
keep on delaying this, it's gonna eventually come down. I mean, the whole wall and the whole cemetery needs work, but the archway really needs it right now. You know, don't wait another 1 or 2 years.
I couldn't agree more, Dave, and that's the point I'm trying to hammer at, is there are other things in those assessments that we should be thinking about. The archway at the cemetery is right on the verge of life safety. If stone comes down when somebody's going through, bad, bad, bad. So that's something that we really, I'll go back into those
I'm
numbers,
not
Tony. I
looking
don't
at-
think that's my job, but I know how to do it.
I'm not looking to postpone the work on the arch, Dave. It's just either it gets funded through you or it gets funded through an alternative
Yeah.
source.
No,
Here.
it right now, Tony, let me just jump in. Right now, it's in there.
Yep,
I'm not saying otherwise. There's $250,000 for the town hall projects. There's $100,000 for the cemetery arch. We should not change that.
So one more thing, Lynn, 4 years ago, when they did the study, they also did a study on the wall.
Right,
And I believe they gave a price of $700,000 to do the whole cemetery wall.
that's right.
And that was 4 years ago. So, you know, what's the cost now? It's gonna be over $1 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, Dave.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know about the cemetery's ability to fund any of this work, because that is the other question.
Well, there is a revolving account, right, Tony, that funds are taken out of that for maintenance?
yeah, well, it's basically for small maintenance and to pay, for the cost of the services related to burials and plots and things of that nature. It's not a deep bank.
Okay. Well, I think we should keep this as it stands. I was raising the question of, do we need to increase this to $400,000 or $500,000? Because it's easier to do that now than to come back next year and say, I need another X number of thousand, another large sum of money that needs to be bonded. I'd like to get to the end, to a reasonable end. It will never end. I understand that. It will never end. But I'd like to get to a point where we're being responsible about the maintenance of, in this case, the cemetery walls and archway. I think we've been doing a good job on the chapel, but now we need to get to the other part of the cemetery complex. All right. Well, thank you, Dave, for jumping in with that. It's a good reminder. Let's move on. Let's move on to the playgrounds. Let's go to a lighter subject. Let's go play a little bit. So we have we had a proposal, a large proposal with $100,000 plus for playground cemetery improvements. What we came to last week was a recommendation for an additional $40,000 going into the Little Nahant playground, added to the $24,000 that we voted last year for a single piece of playground equipment. And then a $20,000 planning grant to actually really specifically look at the other I thought, yeah, the other playgrounds, which include 3 over at the Johnson School, the Flash Road Playground, and the Pleasant Street Playground, as we look at improvements to those playgrounds that had improvements over the last couple of years, but could have more. Have I got that, everyone? Any comments on this? Well, stunned silence, we move on. Bailey's Hill. Move down the chart, Paul.
Yeah, there we go.
Bailey's Hill. Again, we had a larger grant application, actually a $50,000 request. And we, after discussion, said, you know, let's let the $41,000 that we gave them last year, or actually 2 years ago, be spent. And at the same time, on the critical areas on the slope that is facing basically the Tudor Beach side of the Bailey's Hill complex. And let's actually fund a master plan, a maintenance and stewardship master plan for the entirety of the Bailey's Hill Reserve. And that was allocated at $10,000. All right. Any comments about that?
Is that in scale to the size of the plan that's been requested for Lodge Park? Is that where the $10,000 came from, Lynn?
I would say so. Nancy, do you have a comment on that?
No, it was just, we were trying to scale it. That's what we came up with at the moment.
Okay.
So as we look at the next application, which is relevant to just by way of some level of comparison, for Lodge Park, which is the current town-owned property at East Point, that was for an overall project cost for a plan stewardship, maintenance and stewardship plan. The overall cost was $7,500 for that. They had actually solicited and gotten proposals for that. $4,500 is would be funded by CPC, with $3,000 being matched by SWIM. So if I don't have further comments from the committee, I have a request from Josh Antrim to comment on this. Is that okay, everyone?
Yep, sure.
Okay, Josh, do you want to chime in here, please?
Yeah, I'm just, so the application wasn't for a plan or for $10,000. So, and I apologize for missing last week's meeting. Who applied for a plan?
Nobody applied for a plan, Josh. Actually, when I had met with the members of the Open Space Committee, along with Tony and Zach at Bailey's Hill 2 months ago, we'd actually talked about applying for a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that there would be, maintenance, and there'd be guidelines for the treatment of that property. So when in discussion with the committee last week, we came back to that and said, we really think that it would make sense to have standards and guidelines for this moving forward. So that's how that came about. I believe that I've characterized that committee. Am I on target there or off base?
No, I think that's right.
That's right. And it's the same idea that's being used for the Heritage Trail, to get a plan first, to fund the plan.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess this is your job, but it seems like there must be some economies of scale when creating plans, right? In other words, are you If we're gonna do a plan for Lodge Park and a plan for Bailey's Hill and a plan for the Heritage Trail, are we better off just releasing one somewhat larger request for quote on all these things and sort of a master plan kind of a thing?
Well, I think that's a good point. It could be. And in which case the town administration could choose to treat it that way.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess, I guess I'll end my comments with what I was hoping to see out of this application was action, not plan. I mean, there's vines literally tearing the trees down and taking another year to make a plan. Just
Josh, I'll just jump in and say that money has been available for 2 years. So there is money available for removal of invasives. There's $41,000
yeah,
that is available for actual work. So it seemed like it made sense to actually, apply some of that thinking to, as I said, the slopes of the rear portion of Bailey's Hill as it faces Tudor Beach, the Tudor Beach area. Get rid of those invasives, start that process,
yeah,
actually help let the experience there inform the overall plan, which deals not only with that section of the former bunker, but the forward section of Bailey's Hill itself.
yeah.
And it can look at signage, it can look at how many benches do we really want to have? It could look at taking out the chain link fences that are all over the place. There's lots of things that could be considered over there.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Also,
Okay.
the other part of it is that the town has already begun to remove, just with DPW kind of funds, some of the invasives, and removing the invasives could go on simultaneously with the development of the plan for restoration and maintenance. Because that work was done without even touching the 41,000. I think that bigger sum of money was also thought to be used for bigger machinery and stuff that the town had to hire out, doesn't have themselves. So I think it doesn't have to wait to start taking away some of the vines and stuff that you're talking about, Josh, while we develop the plan.
Okay. I mean, I think we all have the same goal, which is to maintain those open spaces. I just hope changing this from doing the work to making a plan doesn't delay the progress. That's all. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Well, we encourage the progress on the money that's already been allocated for the clear cut kind of
Yeah,
things.
and Tony and I did talk about that this afternoon, and apparently it should be happening this spring.
Yep.
At a more accelerated rate beyond what DPW has been able to do.
Right. All right. Any further comments from the committee on this? I'm just looking at the chat to see if I've missed anything here. Okay. The next one is the East Point. I think we talked about that. $4,500 towards the $7,500 overall program there. 3,000 from swim. Next, Town of Nahant, the flagpole. The request was for $25,000. We're recommending $7,500 for the actual wood repairs. And the painting of that flagpole, we feel, should be something the town undertakes out of its capital on maintenance budgets. So beyond that, any further comments about the flagpole? Right. So then beyond that, we are now beginning to look at our bonds. The 10-year, $500,000 bond that was voted last year at the town meeting for the public library will actually have its first year of expenditure this year, since the contracts have been let for the restoration work on the library. So that's going to be a draw on our funds. The next one is another public library bond that was taken was approved last year, but would be taken, no, was approved 2 years ago, but was actually implemented in 2020. And the second year of that bond would be a draw on this, our budget for this year. And these numbers are based on what I got from the bond schedule. The next one down is the East Point Conservation, $1.5 million, 20-year bond. That whole thing is under in numerous different court cases right now. So it's not something that will be imminent, or at least in this year. So this is a blank. It's something that's been approved by the town meeting, but it actually isn't a draw on our budget as yet. So Paul, can you just keep scrolling down, please? Right. So we approved last week $10,000 for administrative costs. That funds the coalition dues, the printing. We help with the printing of the town warrant. And then we do have funds available for consulting services, such as which Tony used this year for the town hall acoustical project. So we're happy to have that available. So our total is $512,864. Ellen, have you double checked that?
No, I need the a copy of that spreadsheet, and I can double check all the entries and formulas.
All right.
Because we actually increased something earlier.
Did by a small amount. Did that change? And did you change the formula, Paula, or should I do that?
No, I didn't change the formula, no.
Well, if I remember correctly, last week you put a plug in a number, and so that.
No,
it
I
might
just
not-
took, I think I just put in the total I was given.
Right, not it wasn't a formula.
Oh,
So
wait,
we need to give me, if you just do a quick, send that over to me, I want to double check it.
I think we said this was 11,000.
Yes, we increased it by $500.
$500.
But I don't think this column sums automatically.
No. So I
Okay.
just did it. It's $513,364, but
That is correct.
but Ellen should, Ellen should double check it because she's the financier.
Well, do you want me to send her this now?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
but I can just tell you, for the purposes of tonight's discussion, I can
Oh,
tell you
okay.
because I've got it on a separate screen.
Okay,
Right.
fine. All
So
right.
the point of all of this is that, of this $513,000, we can fund, we will take the entirety of this year's appropriation of $391,000. We can apply the housing reserve of $35,649 towards the $75,000 request for the housing production plan. So that takes care of, using that reserve. And then the balance of this can be funded from the general reserve. So that would still leave approximately $180,000 in general reserve. Okay. That clear to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. So I am scheduled to be in front of FinCom next Wednesday I would invite anyone from the committee who wants to join me at that meeting, where we will present this. Did you raise your hand, Paul?
No, not intentionally.
Yeah, well, it's up.
Well, ignore it,
Okay.
because I don't know how to put it down.
You don't know how to put it down?
No,
Okay,
I didn't put it up and I don't know how to put it down.
fine. It's probably just a figment of my imagination.
No, I'm sure it's real. It's,
Yeah. Anyway, anyone who would like to join me for that meeting, I think that would be helpful.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
When did you, I'm sorry, Lynn, when did you say it was? I was sending Ellen the form. When is it?
It's April 6th.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Wednesday, correct?
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Is that an in-person or a Zoom meeting?
Gosh, Nancy, I assumed it was Zoom. Is Julie still on? Is anyone from FinCom on? No.
Yes, I'm on. Dana Sheehan.
But Dana, are you in person or by Zoom?
We've been doing Zoom. You know, if you want to get together in person, we can bring it up with the rest of the FinCom. And see if we
No,
can-
I think everyone is comfortable with Zoom.
Okay. Zoom it is.
Yeah, we'll stick with Zoom. So it'll be by Zoom. They start at 7. And I'll just check with the chairman, Bob Vanderslice, about where we will be in the agenda. But I spoke with him last week about this. I'd like to actually start drafting the articles. And I'd love to have volunteers for anyone who would like to actually try their hand. And it's a fine hand at drafting articles.
Lynn, why
Yeah.
don't you ask the people who reported on the subjects to draft them?
Yeah.
Nancy, I had thought about that myself, and I love that you suggested it, because now it's not me who suggested it.
Right. I know you two set this up, so you can stop the
No, nothing like
histrionics.
that.
In fact, I was going to suggest the same thing, Lynn. The
Oh,
other thing I
good.
was going to suggest is that you might send around last year's text if you can find it
Yeah,
to give us a model.
I can certainly do that. And so, if I could just sort of say who would be doing what based on what I remember.
Yep.
And let's go
I thought
from,
we had a column here.
huh?
We had a column
We did?
on the spreadsheet. I don't know what happened to it.
Well, I don't know. You can just go to the last, you could,
Yeah.
I have mine, but I under the proposed action column at the very last, you can put it down there if you want.
I don't know if that's the best place for it. Proposed action. Notes?
Oh, see, I have a different thing. Oh, dear.
Yeah. all
Yes,
right.
you can
Well,
put it
we
under
changed
notes. Put it under
We
notes.
We
Just put it
changed it
on-
last week. Okay, go.
Okay, Nahant Historical Society. Wasn't that you, Austin?
It was actually Jimmy.
Yeah, I think
No, but
Austin. Yeah,
Austin
Yeah.
reported out.
he did.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that one.
Okay, great.
So who's going to do it?
Austin. And then
Okay.
the boat room doors,
That's me, Jimmy Dolan.
that's Jimmy. Yeah.
All
Oh,
right, wait a
Jimmy.
minute. I got it. All right. Let's see. Why is this not? Oh, I see what the problem is.
That's all right. I'm doing it on mine.
Okay.
Uh,
And
Universal
Dolan?
Access. Yeah, Jimmy Dolan is the boat room doors.
okay.
Universal Access Village Church. That
That's
would be
me.
You, Paul.
Yeah.
Heritage Trail Enhancement,
Paul?
Paul.
Wait a minute. I'm getting there. Hold on. All right. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff
Yeah.
because it doesn't pertain anymore. All right. Yep.
Heritage Trail Enhancement. That's you, Paul.
I did it already. It's in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Little Nahant Road is tabled. Housing production plan.
That's me. Yep.
Dave, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Town hall acoustics and lighting,
Oh, that's me.
Austin.
Weston. Green Lawn
Okay.
Cemetery and Town Hall warrant. Who is that? No one claiming that one?
I don't know that we,
I'll do that one.
all right. So should we leave the note about a 10-year bond or not?
No, I know what it is.
Okay.
Now, remember, once this is our worksheet, this doesn't get published. This is kind of for us.
Okay.
Next, playground equipment. Nancy, that was you.
Yep,
Bailey's Hill,
me.
Lodge Park.
That was me.
That
I
was
had
me.
also Bailey's Hill, but I'm happy to have Nancy do
Oh,
that.
I'm
since she
sorry.
knows- No, it's fine. You know more about it than I do, so I'll do Lodge Park.
Okay, great. Flagpole,
That's me.
Awesome.
okay. And then I will draft the borrowing, just the notes about the borrowing articles for the next two. And I will also do the administrative, the $10,000 one. And then we always love the world of clawbacks, right? So I did get a note from Allison at Town Hall about 3 little clawbacks that are pretty old that I could do. One is $23.75 for the building department permitting software. Another is the Town Hall Records Preservation Project, $383.97. And then the Wharf Gangway fiscal year 19 for $698,000. But she also sent me all the sort of lovely eye-crossing spreadsheets that they work with, and I'll see if I see any other clawbacks that are possible. I will remind the committee that there is still $50,000 in the Council on Aging Town Hall kitchen improvements, and we're keeping that live because that looks like that's going to go forward.
And Lynn, this is Ellen. Do the clawbacks go back into their original bucket, or do they go into the general reserve?
They go into the general reserve.
Okay. Could I make a suggestion that we each draft our articles and then try to do it with as little formatting as possible? And I would be responsible for consolidating all the articles into one document to present to FinCom.
Whoa, that's a wonderful idea. You could make that suggestion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, she does.
Yeah, we love
Well,
that.
don't send them to me yet. Let's bring them to the next week's meeting, because I assume we'll review them and then we'll edit them live, and then we can send them all to me after that, and I'll take care of it after that.
Great. Okay, so that means we all have assignments for next Monday.
And what format would you like them written in?
I'd be very happy with a Word document, just, minimal formatting, no bullets or numbers if possible, because we'll put those in ourselves and they become problematic to try to remove.
Okay, so we'll write it in Word.
Just write just a plain old Word doc.
Okay.
And I will remind you, there's 2 parts to this. There's the article itself, and then there's a supporting statement.
So, yeah, that's why I was suggesting that you send out some examples.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you last year's A through U.
Ellen, does it make sense for us to send you our drafts so that you can share them all next week
Oh,
or
I
edit
don't,
them?
that's actually not a bad idea. I don't know. What do people think?
No,
That
I
way
think
we don't have to,
that's an excellent idea.
yeah, because then we don't have to switch screens between people.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, just send them all to me. I mean.
And they
yeah,
can look
just-
like anything. It doesn't matter what they look like,
Exactly, exactly. And I'll just
as
have
long
all
as
the
they're readable.
documents. I'll just have all the documents. If I don't have them in time to consolidate them by the meeting time, that's fine. I'll still just have them available.
Okay, so that means, folks, if you can get them to Ellen by when would, I know you have a busy work day on Monday, so.
Yeah.
On the weekend sometime. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, if I don't know what people's schedules are. Some people are going to write them on Monday, so we'll take what we can get. I'll probably book myself about an hour and a half before the meeting to try to do it, to be honest.
Okay, all right.
So
Did you hear
sometime
that, folks?
Monday by
Yeah.
noon would be awesome.
Okay. That's what we wanted to hear, Ellen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little confused about, you said that we can't have numbers in it.
I meant automatic numbering and
Oh,
automatic
okay.
bullets, like, 1.8.
Obviously, we need money numbers in them.
Correct. I'm talking about outline numbering.
Yeah, but I mean, these are paragraph forms, like I'm looking at last,
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
Paragraph text, right.
Paragraph text.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think with that, folks, unless there's something else. Oh, I see. Dana, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, Lynn, thanks for recognizing me there. I'm the alternate liaison from FinCom to the CPC process, and that's what I'm doing here. So I was wondering if somebody could please summarize for me the status of the number 9 Little Nahant grant, the Little Nahant Road grant. It says tabled.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have a meeting at the FinCom on Wednesday. In case anybody asks me, I want to be able to kind of give them an update on that.
Well, it's tabled that we had discussion about this tonight, Dana. We've referred it back to the Board of Selectmen for the further review and discussion on their part. We don't have, I mean, we tabled it on the basis of not having a clear sense of the future uses of the property, whether historic preservation or open space. We were concerned about the schedule and the inability to have a meaningful public process on this. And lastly, we really don't have the money in our account. So those were there's some of the factors that we've talked about.
Then what would be the next steps at this point?
It goes back to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Would it become an article if they have some more funding on their end?
It's up to them to make that decision.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lynn.
Sure.
Dana, this is Tony. I'm sure I'll be on your FinCom call too. So any other questions or from the rest of the committee, I'm happy to help you out.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Okay, so I think, folks, if there aren't any other questions or comments, we may be, I can't see the time. Oh, we may be dangerously close to 8:30. So unless is there any other further business to be brought up by this committee?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Could I have a second on that?
I second.
Okay. I'll do a roll call vote on that. Nancy Catalmo,
Aye.
Dave Wilson,
Aye.
Austin Antrim,
Aye.
Paul Spurn,
Aye.
Ellen Goldberg,
I
Jimmy Dolan,
Aye.
Chair says aye. I think we are adjourned.
Very nice. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. So I'll be following this up with the last year's articles as kind of models for you to look at as you're thinking about your drafting. And then, Paul, are you going to send out that revised spreadsheet?
Yeah, I gotta get it back from Ellen
Okay, great.
with the
Okay.
formulas on it. In it, rather.
All
Hey,
right.
Paul, can you spell my name correctly on that?
Is it spelled, where is it spelled incorrectly?
Well, as you were typing it up.
Oh, can't tell. Oh, I left out the
Can't
N.
tell you.
I can't tell you.
I can't tell you.
Should have put initials.
All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.